Right now, not next week, not when it cools down. 9 plants in yards across this country are making a permanent decision about next spring's blooms. Most of the people who own those plants have no idea the clock is already running. Here's what should stop you cold. The mistake doesn't happen in October when you finally tidy up. It doesn't happen in March when you panic prune. It happens right now. In August, while you're inside avoiding the heat, while you're convincing yourself it's too hot to be useful out there. That's when the damage gets done. Quietly, invisibly, with zero warning until next May, when you're standing in your yard wondering why nothing bloomed. Today, I'm walking you through all 9. Exactly what to cut, exactly how much to take, and, just as important, exactly where to put the pruners down and walk away. Because for most of these plants, doing nothing is a skill, and most people skip straight past it. One plant on this list can be permanently damaged by a single wrong cut. Not set back for a season, not slowed down, permanently. I'll tell you exactly which one and exactly where the line is, but I need you to stay with me through the list. Because the plant sitting right outside your back door might be one of the other 8. If you want timely, no-fluff gardening content, subscribe now. These videos run on a calendar. The window I'm talking about today doesn't stay open long. I don't want you finding this in September when it's already too late. Let's get into it. Plant 1, butterfly bush. Let's start with one that's in more American yards than people realize, and gets butchered in August more than almost anything else on this list. Butterfly bush. Buddleia davidii. Zones 5 through 9. If you've got one, it's probably in a sunny spot, looking leggy right now with a few spent flower spikes gone brown at the ends. And here's exactly what most people do when they see that. They grab their shears, cut it back hard, feel productive and walk inside. Feels like the right call. Looks like they did something useful. Except they just took away their entire fall bloom. Every spike that could have opened between now and frost. Gone. Here's what's actually happening in August. Butterfly bush blooms on new growth. Those fresh green tips pushing out right now, those are your next round of flowers. Every time you deadhead a spent spike back to the nearest healthy side bud, you trigger the plant to push another one. That cycle can keep going all the way into October if you let it. But the moment you cut into the framework, the woody stems, the main structure, you've told the plant to start over. And it doesn't have enough season left to do that. What you get is a stressed plant heading into fall with fresh wounds and nothing left to show before first frost. Your only job on butterfly bush right now: deadhead. Find each spent spike, follow it back to the nearest healthy leaf set or visible side bud, cut just above it. That's it. Keep the pruners off the main structure. Save any hard renovation for late winter or early spring. That's when this plant actually wants it. Have you ever cut a butterfly bush back hard in summer thinking you were helping it, then watched it sit there doing nothing for the rest of the season? Now you know exactly why, and you are not alone. Plant 2. Climbing and rambling roses. A viewer messaged me last August with a photo of a climbing rose that had completely taken over her fence. 8 feet tall, thick as her wrist at the base, tangled so badly she said it looked like it was trying to become the fence. She hadn't touched it in 4 years because every time she walked up with pruners, she froze. She didn't know where to start, so she didn't. For years of flowers, she never got to enjoy the way she should have. But here's the thing. August is one of the most forgiving windows of the year to work on a climbing or rambling rose, especially the big once-blooming ramblers that put on their whole show in early summer and are now done. That bloom is finished. The plant is growing new canes right now, canes that will carry next summer's entire display. Those canes need the rest of the season to mature and harden before any real cold arrives. Here's how you work through it. Start where you always start on any woody plant: dead, damaged, or diseased wood first. Get deep into the tangle. Don't skim the outside edges. Dead canes hide inside these things where you'll never see them from a distance. Then comes the renewal cut. Pick out roughly 1 in 3 of the oldest canes, thicker, darker bark, sometimes peeling at the edges, and remove them completely at ground level. Not shortened. Removed. This opens the plant so air and light move through it, cuts disease pressure dramatically, and signals the plant to push fresh, vigorous canes from the base. That's where your best future flowers come from. Now here's the trick almost nobody uses. Once you've got your strong new canes, tie them in as horizontal as your support will allow. When a rose cane runs sideways instead of straight up, buds wake up all the way down the length of that cane. You get blooms from base to tip. Leave a cane pointing straight up, one small cluster at the very top, way up where you can barely see them. Tie it horizontal, a fence full of blooms. Same plant, same effort, completely different result. One last thing. Pulling a long thorny cane out of a tangled rambler is not graceful. Wear gloves that go past your wrist. Cut the cane into shorter sections as you work it free instead of hauling it out whole. It fights you less. Your arms will thank you. Plant 3, lavender. This is the one. The plant I mentioned at the very start. The one where a single wrong cut isn't a setback, it's a sentence. A viewer in Tennessee had a lavender plant that had been in her garden for 6 years. Beautiful, full, fragrant. Grown from a tiny cutting a neighbor gave her. Late August, she decided to rejuvenate it. Cut it back hard, down into the thick woody stems at the center. By October, half the plant was bare gray sticks. No new growth, no green, nothing. By the following spring, all of it was gray sticks. She wrote to me convinced it had disease or root rot. Didn't. There was nothing wrong with the plant at all, except she crossed a line lavender can never uncross. Here's biology. Underneath all that silver-green foliage, lavender builds a woody skeleton. Hard, gray, almost completely without dormant buds. That old gray wood at the center is not resting. It is done. Cannot push new growth if you cut into it. None. Ever. So your job in August, once the flower spikes have faded, is to take your shears and trim across the soft, leafy, green growth only. Remove about a third. Shape a low rounded dome. Never cut below where you can clearly see green on the stem. If you're ever squinting at a stem trying to decide if it's still green enough, that hesitation is your answer. Back off. Go higher. Cut less. Caution costs you nothing on lavender. A mistake costs you years. Have you ever lost a plant to a pruning mistake you didn't even realize you were making? A plant you genuinely thought you were helping? Tell me the story below. Whatever you did, someone else watching this video did the exact same thing. Bell, if you're still watching and you just thought, oh no, that's exactly what I did to my lavender. This channel is exactly where you need to be. Hit subscribe, not as a favor to me, because next month there's another window just like this one, and you do not want to find out about it 3 weeks after it closes. Quick question, how many times have you replanted the same tomatoes, the same basil, the same peppers? Every single spring? Same cart, same garden center, same cycle. What if you only had to plant it once? That's literally the idea behind Plant Once, my perennial starter checklist and zone guide. Find your zone in under 5 minutes. Know exactly what to plant first. And build a garden that comes back year after year, without you lifting a finger every spring. Plant it once. Harvest it for years. Links in the description, or scan the QR code on your screen to get your copy right now. Let's stop starting over. Plant 4, Bigleaf Hydrangea. Picture a hydrangea. Big, lush, gorgeous, healthy in every possible way, and producing absolutely zero flowers. Not one. Season after season. The owner standing in front of it every June, fertilizing it, watering it, doing everything right and getting nothing back. That is not a made-up scenario. It's the message I get more than almost any other on this channel. And 9 times out of 10, when I ask what they do with the plant in fall or early spring, the answer is the same. They cut it back, tidied it up, made it neat. That one completely reasonable, completely well-intentioned habit is the reason the flowers never came. Here's the biology, and once it lands, it will never leave you. A bigleaf hydrangea sets its flower buds for next year on the stems standing in your yard right now. This week, in August, every stem out there is already quietly carrying next year's entire flower show locked inside it. So when you cut those stems back in fall because they look messy, or worse, cut them hard in early spring because they look dead after winter, you are not pruning the plant. You are erasing the flowers before they ever had a chance to open. Every time, without exception. Your only move in August, deadhead. Find a faded flower head, Follow the stem down to the first fat, healthy pair of buds in the leaf joint, and cut just above it. A few inches. Nothing more. Everything below that cut is next year's display. Your job is to protect it. And here's something that will do more for next year's blooms than any cut you make: water. Hydrangeas have enormous leaves and shallow roots. They lose moisture faster than almost anything else in your yard. A hydrangea that dries out right now while it's forming those buds simply sets fewer of them. No pruning technique in the world fixes a drought stress problem. A deep soak at the base, once or twice a week during hot spells. Morning only, never over the leaves. That protects the display you've been waiting all year to see. How many of you have been cutting your hydrangea back every fall, feeling proud of how tidy your yard looked, without knowing you were erasing next year's flowers with your own hands? Drop it below. And if this just changed how you're going to treat your hydrangea this year, that's exactly why I make these videos. Belle, that viewer I just described? She found this in November. The damage was already done for the entire season. One more year of nothing but leaves. If she'd been subscribed, she would have seen this in August, when it still mattered. Don't be November. Hit subscribe right now. Plant 5 Clematis. Clematis is the plant where the most confident gardeners make the most catastrophic mistakes. The reason is almost always the same. They pruned one clematis right once, and now they apply those exact rules to every clematis they own. Every clematis they ever meet. Every one they see on a neighbor's fence. Same cut, same timing, same confidence. And depending on which group their plant belongs to, that confidence is either perfectly fine, or it just cost them the entire next season without them ever knowing why. Here's what most people don't realize. There are 3 distinct pruning groups. They behave so differently that what saves one plant will destroy the flowering on another. Same genus. Completely opposite rules. Group 1 blooms early, late spring into early summer, on wood that grew the previous year. By August, their season is finished. Your only move right now is a light tidy if needed. Then leave it completely alone until after it blooms next year. Cut it hard now and you're removing the wood that was going to carry next spring's display. Gone before it ever opened. Group 2 are your big showy repeat bloomers. A flush in early summer, then another later. They also bloom partly on last year's wood. In August, deadhead spent blooms and do light shaping only. Nothing structural. Save any hard pruning for late winter when you can see clearly what survived the cold. Group 3 is where you have some freedom. These bloom on new growth each spring, so cutting back harder in late summer doesn't cost you next year's flowers the way it would on groups 1 and 2. But even on a group 3, August is not the time for a full hard cut. You want that regrowth to harden before frost. Hold off until late winter for any real structural work. Here's the part that trips almost everyone up. Most people have no idea which group their clematis belongs to. The tag is long gone. Nobody remembers what variety they planted. They just know it's purple, or white, or that it blooms sometime in summer. If that's you, here's the fastest way to figure it out. When does it bloom? Early spring means group 1. A big early flush plus a repeat means group 2. Later in summer, fresh new growth means group 3. When in doubt and you genuinely can't tell, do the least. A light deadhead and nothing more. Caution never costs you a season on clematis. Cutting the wrong group always does. Drop your answer in the comments right now. Do you know which pruning group your clematis belongs to? Yes, no, or, and I suspect this is the most popular answer. I lost the tag 8 years ago and I've been guessing ever since. Tell me below. Your answers are going to shape exactly what I cover in an upcoming video. Plant 6 Wisteria. Wisteria is the plant that makes people feel like they're living inside a painting. Right up until it finds a gap in their fascia board, works its way into the attic and starts making structural decisions on their behalf. I'm not being dramatic. I've seen Wisteria pull a wooden trellis clean off a brick wall. I've seen it find a hairline crack and widen it. Wisteria does not ask permission. It does not slow down. Give it an August without attention and it will spend that time making itself significantly harder to deal with in September. Here's what makes August actually important. And this surprises most people. There are 2 key pruning windows for Wisteria, not 1. Most gardeners only know about the winter prune. But the summer prune, done right now, controls the season's long whippy growth and this is the part people miss completely. It's what encourages the short flowering spurs that carry next year's blooms. Here's exactly what you do. Take all of the summer's long new shoots, the ones that have been reaching and climbing and going wherever they want all season, and cut them back to 5 or 6 leaves from the main framework. Not from the ground. From the established woody structure. 5 or 6 leaves. That's it. Do not touch the main framework. Do not cut into the thick established stems. You're only managing the season's fresh growth, shortening it, redirecting the plant's energy away from more vine and toward the flowering spurs quietly developing along the older wood. That one focused cut is what separates a wisteria that blooms spectacularly next spring from one that gives you nothing but an explosion of leaves and a gutter full of vines. One more thing, and I mean this sincerely. While you're up there working on it, check your gutters. I'm serious. Check them. Plant 7, peach and nectarine trees. Most people believe fruit tree pruning belongs in late winter. And for most fruit trees, apples, pears, cherries, they're mostly right. Late dormancy is when you do the big structural work. But peach trees are different. And almost nobody outside of serious orchardists knows this. Here's what's happening inside a peach tree right now that makes August matter. The tree is under enormous disease pressure. Peach leaf curl, bacterial canker, various fungal infections. All of them floating around in the warm, humid August air actively looking for an opening. And a dense, closed canopy is exactly the environment they thrive in. Dark, still, humid at the center. Perfect incubator. An August prune on a peach tree isn't about shaping for next year's crop, though it helps with that too. It's about opening the canopy before dormancy so air and light move through it freely, drying out the conditions disease needs to take hold. Here's what you're removing. Water sprouts first. Those vigorous, straight-up vertical shoots bolting from the main scaffold branches like they're trying to become a whole new tree. They contribute nothing to fruit production. They crowd the canopy. Remove them at the base. Then crossing branches. Any branch rubbing another is creating a wound site every time the wind moves. Take out the weaker of the two. Finally, anything dead, damaged, or showing signs of disease, cut it out and get it out of the garden completely. The shape you're working toward is an open center. Light reaching all the way into the middle. Air moving freely through every branch. That structure is what gives you cleaner, larger, more abundant fruit next season. Now here's the part one need you to take seriously. More seriously than the pruning itself. Clean your blades between every single cut on stone fruit. Not between trees. Between cuts. Wipe with rubbing alcohol. Let it dry 10 seconds. Then make the next cut. Fungal and bacterial pathogens spread from cut to cut on the blade faster than almost any other way. I know it sounds like overkill. I know it slows you down. Do it anyway. The difference between a peach tree that makes your neighbors stop at your fence and ask what variety that is, versus one that gives you a handful of scabby, disease-spotted disappointments, often comes down to 2 or 3 August decisions. This is one of them. Plant 8 peonies. I get more heartbroken messages about peonies than almost any other plant I cover. And it's not because peonies are difficult. It's actually the opposite. They're one of the toughest, longest-lived perennials you can put in the ground. Some of them outlive the person who planted them by decades. The heartbreak comes from something very specific. A peony doesn't punish you for cutting the wrong thing. It punishes you for cutting the right thing at the wrong time. And that's a much harder mistake to see coming, because the plant gives you 0 warning signs. It just quietly fails to show up next May, when it's already too late to do anything about it. Here's what's happening under those big glossy leaves right now. Every green leaf on that plant is working like a tiny solar panel manufacturing sugars and shipping them straight down into the thick, fleshy storage roots underground. Those stored reserves are the entire reason you get flowers next May. Every leaf still standing green right now is still earning its keep. Still filling up the tank. So here's your August checklist. 3 things. None of them involve cutting the plant to the ground. First, remove any seed pods where the flowers faded. Producing seed costs the plant energy it could be storing instead. Follow the spent flower stem down to a healthy set of leaves and snip just above it. Small job, Big difference in what goes into the roots. Second, hunt for trouble. Walk the plant slowly and look closely at every stem and leaf. Botrytis and leaf blight show up in August as brown blotches, dark spots, sometimes a whole stem collapsing at the base without warning. Any stem or leaf showing those signs comes off, all the way to ground level. And here's the part people always get wrong. Throw it in the trash. Not the compost pile. The trash. Those fungal spores overwinter happily in compost and come right back to reinfect the plant next spring as if you never dealt with them at all. Third, and this requires real self-control, leave every scrap of healthy green foliage completely alone. Don't cut a green peony down because the border looks rough and you want things tidy. I understand the temptation, but you'd be pulling money straight out of your own account the season before you need it most. Wait until the leaves yellow and die back on their own, usually late August into September depending on your zone, and only then cut the whole plant down to just above ground level. Now, the ants. Yes, those ants cover every peony bud every spring like they own the place. People march out with spray bottles convinced the ants are why their buds won't open. Convinced they're doing damage. Convinced they need to be eliminated. Here's the truth. The ants are there for the sugary coating on the outside of the buds. That's the entire story. They're not hurting your plant. There's actually evidence they help keep certain damaging pests away while they're working. So no spraying. No panic. Let them have their sugar party. It costs your plant nothing and it might genuinely be doing you a favor. If you've been marching out there every spring with a spray bottle feeling like you were saving your flowers, go ahead and admit it in the comments. You are in extremely good company. Have you ever had a plant that looked completely healthy and then just quietly let you down when it mattered? Not dead, just disappointing. Season after season with no dramatic warning. Tell me if that plant was a peony, or tell me what plant it was. I read every single one before I plan the next video. Plant 9, ornamental grasses. This last one is going to feel completely different from everything else on this list. Because the answer for ornamental grasses in August is almost always the same 2 words. Do nothing. Put the pruners down. Walk back inside. Pour yourself something cold. You're done here. And I say that fully aware that every gardening instinct you've built up over years in your yard is screaming at you to do something. Because it's August, and the grasses are starting to look tired and wild and uneven, and the urge to tidy them up is almost physically hard to resist. Resist it anyway. Here's why. Ornamental grasses are not winding down in August. They're gearing up. The seed heads and plumes just beginning to emerge right now. The ones that look rough and unfinished at this exact moment. Those are going to be the most spectacular thing in your yard by October. By November with frost on them, they'll stop people walking past your house. By January they'll be holding snow like sculptures. By February, when there's almost nothing else in the entire garden offering you anything to look at, they'll still be standing there doing their job. Cut them now and you take all of that away. You also do something subtler and more damaging. You stimulate a flush of fresh new growth that doesn't have enough season left to harden before the first hard frost. And soft, frost-damaged tips heading into winter are exactly the entry point that invites disease and rot into the crown, the part you actually need to protect. If a grass has completely browned out or collapsed from heat stress, go ahead and clean up the dead material. That's just maintenance. But green and standing, leave it. The rough look right now is the price of admission for what's coming in 3 months. Leaving ornamental grasses alone in August is not laziness. It's not neglect. It's one of the most intentional things you can do for your yard's fall and winter display. And that is the perfect note to end the plant list on, because it pulls together the single biggest theme running through every plant we've covered today. The best thing you can do for your garden this August is not always the thing that feels most productive. Sometimes it's knowing exactly when to stop. And sometimes, like right now with your grasses, it's not starting at all. Are you a tidy gardener or a let-it-be-wild gardener? Because ornamental grasses sort everyone into one of those 2 camps fast. Drop your answer below and tell me why. Bell if you've made it this far and you haven't subscribed yet. What are you waiting for? Everything I told you today is time-sensitive. Next month brings a completely different set of plants, a completely different window, and at least one mistake I can almost guarantee you're making in your yard right now without knowing it. If you're subscribed, that video finds you when it matters. If you're not, you're leaving it up to chance. Hit subscribe. Your garden is worth more than that.